Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magazine Centre. Today I'm doing the astrology report for the week commencing the 6th of June, outlining some of the key aspects and transits for the week and giving a rough overview of what the themes are being outlined to us. Now, before I go through the actual aspects of the week, I just want to clarify, as I always do, that the astrology doesn't control our lives in any way. It's just a way of us understanding what the energies around us are doing and becoming more aware of what the energies are doing. We can then work with them rather than trying to fight against them, and we can go with the flow and allow wisdom to guide us and allow the energies to show us what the best direction to go in is, by heeding our intuition. But for anything to actually change, it requires that we take action. The astrology doesn't make things happen, we actually have to participate in the process for anything to change in our lives. Now, with that being said, we'll go through the aspects. So we start with the moon in Pisces. This is a time which is good for meditating, to focus on that sense of oneness and feeling the natural ebbs and flows of spirit, and ideally get into that place where we can feel spiritual energies in our day-to-day lives. It's not just something that happens in deep states of meditation, it's something that happens quite readily. On Thursday, the moon moves into Aries. This will be a time where we may feel that drive to take action, to initiate new beginnings, or to make changes in our lives, and just to have that particularly drive to make things happen rather than just sit back doing nothing. On Sunday, the moon will move into Taurus, and this will be a time where we may feel like we need to slow down, to get grounded, and potentially spend a bit of time in nature so we get rooted again and we calm down after the fast pace of Aries. Before on Tuesday, the moon moves into Gemini, and this will be a time where we may feel that we need to communicate with one another, to share our ideas, to reach out to one another, and to engage in a mixture of speaking and listening to one another to help us learn new things and to help one another out. In terms of aspects for the week, most of them are involving the sun. The first one that we experience as such will be the conjunction between Sun and Mercury. So this would be a time where it could be an opportunity for us to get a better mental understanding of who we are, or to align the rational and logical mind with our sense of self-identity, rather than having thoughts that don't really support who we are or undermine who we're becoming. The next aspect is the following day. This will be on Thursday. This will be a square between the Sun and Neptune. And obviously, this aspect has been working its way or getting stronger over the past few days. But with it being exact on Thursday, this is at the peak of the energy, if you like, before it wanes off. But this square often highlights the challenge of trying to incorporate spirituality into our sense of identity, because Neptune being essentially boundaryless and the ego, on the other hand, having boundaries and limits, it's going to be a difficult one to bring together. But it's essentially learning to recognise our ego and appreciate the humour of it, to learn to laugh at it, as it were. So it's about being who we are but not taking ourselves seriously, and it's also about opening up to spiritual energies around us, to rather than focus on, or rather than dealing or focusing specifically on the physical world, as it were. Neptune challenges us to understand that we're actually spiritual beings. There's a whole other realm that we're surrounded by, that we're in it, as it were, and yet because we focus on the objective reality or the concrete reality in Gemini, this spiritual reality that underpins everything is something that we often ignore for whatever reason. So, but Neptune also deals with things like illusions and deception. So it's also important here that we don't engage in illusions, we don't deceive ourselves in any way, we don't pretend to be something that we're not. And obviously, carry on from that, is that it's important that we don't try and lead other people on, or deceive other people. So the one thing we need to be careful here is we need to make sure that we're not engaging in any kind of fantasies or illusions, it's important that we stay grounded, but we allow that spiritual energy to open us up, to strengthen our psychic senses, as it were, and strengthen the intuition, and find a way to bring that intuition and the objective logical mind together rather than the two fighting off against one another. So with Mercury, with the Sun being in Mercury sign Gemini, Mercury being square to Neptune at the same time, and Neptune in his home sign of Pisces, both planets are strong here. So the Mercury Sun conjunction versus Neptune square may present a challenge between the rational and logical mind and the intuitive mind, which brings about dissolution of thought forms and the dissolution, of the physical side of things. It's about the releasing of consciousness from physical structure. So the challenge for us during the whole of this week, in essence, will be to incorporate our spirituality but remain grounded and fully in the present moment. So if we focus on being in the present moment rather than engaging in fantasy, the spiritual energy will naturally flow through us. It'll give us that heightened psychic sensitivity and strengthened intuition, but it's also an opportunity for us to incorporate greater compassion into our sense of identity. We have to give it to ourselves first. If we don't have any compassion for ourselves, we can't give it to other people. So it's an opportunity for us to work on incorporating more compassion and empathy into who we are, rather than sticking rigidly with the ego and judging other people. So it gives us this opportunity for us to loosen or relax the ego a bit and allow that spiritual and intuition to aid us. So mindfulness may be a key aspect for this week in terms of resolving that square between Mercury and Neptune. So the more mindful we are and the more we pay attention to what's going on around us and how our internal responses to the environment, we can change the way we interact with things. Next aspect along won't be until Monday, so this is going to be an inconjunct between the Sun and Pluto. So this highlights a challenge between our conscious sense of self-identity and the deeper, often unconscious power drives, or the deepest desires that we have, and finding a way to bring them together. With it being an inconjunct, so they're in two signs which don't traditionally mix at all, this is like trying to bring oil and water together. However, if we find a way to become still within and rise above it and see things from a spiritual perspective rather than trying to compartmentalise the different areas of life, as it were, then we can allow the Plutonian function of transformation crisis to allow us to strip away new layers of sense of self-identity which aren't true to who we are, and to get more in touch with our core nature, that deep primal energy at the core of who we are, that can only be tapped into through overcoming the ego, through shedding the layers of illusion that we've built around ourselves, and having the courage to face our own shadow, and through awareness and self-love, transforming it. On Tuesday, we have Vesta is going to move backwards into Sagittarius. She's been in Capricorn for a bit, but she's retrograde at the moment. So she's highlighting where we need to evaluate our devotion and how committed we are to things. With Capricorn, it's about structure, so commitment to structure. But with Vesta moving backwards into Sagittarius, we're now being challenged to evaluate what beliefs, what do we truly believe in, what truths resonate with us, so what ideas, what belief systems and what philosophies resonate with who we are. There's also making sure that the beliefs that we have are actually right for who we are, and we devote our energies to incorporating beliefs that empower us and expand our perceptions beyond our current understanding. But at the same time, it's important that we do not just take on board beliefs willy-nilly out of a desperate desire to hold on to something or to get some understanding that gives us a sense of self, as it were. So it's important this time that we review our beliefs, we review the ones that we invest our energy in, and see where do they keep us playing small, where do they allow us to make excuses for not doing things, and therefore what beliefs do we need to let go of if we really want to be empowered, if we really want to make things happen in our lives, and to put us in a position where we can make the necessary changes, we can achieve true freedom through taking responsibility for what we say, what we think, what we do, and what we believe. So it's a time for us to evaluate that and to see what beliefs do we hold on to from the past that actually limit us. And the last thing is Mercury will be moving into Cancer on this Tuesday as well. So this is a time for us to develop an intellectual understanding of our emotions. It's about achieving greater awareness of our emotions. So it's if you like, it's almost like developing the vocabulary to help us name our emotions, which then gives us more power over them. So they're not just bursts of energy within us. We understand or have this intellectual awareness of what emotions we're feeling, and by developing this awareness of our feelings, we can then separate ourselves from them and observe them more closely, and we can also see where we're holding on to emotional patterns, or where we're holding on to thought patterns which generate certain emotional responses. So basically, Mercury in Cancer is an opportunity for us all to develop greater emotional awareness, a greater understanding of our own emotional cues, and taking more conscious control over our emotions, not by suppressing them or burying them or anything like that. But if we're aware of what emotions we're feeling, we can then try and identify what triggered that emotion, because emotions don't happen in a vacuum. Something always causes them. Usually it's an internal thing, so it's something that we've thought about or remembered, and it's caused an association, an emotional response. Sometimes it is external things, but external events generally trigger a memory of something that's happened in the past. So it's still about facing our emotional conditioning, developing that intellectual understanding of it, and bringing the intellect and the emotions together so that the two work hand in hand rather than them being two separate functions, as it were. It's by bringing the logic together with the intuition or the instincts of Cancer and the emotional underpinnings, we can understand ourselves better. So there's a lot to take on board this week, but if nothing else, the most important thing that we do for ourselves is that we spend that time to develop great awareness of who we are. And it's also important that whatever we do, we make sure it's done through a lens of love. So we're not operating out of fear. It's doing that necessary inner work of facing issues that we haven't dealt with, facing emotional and mental patterns in the minds that cause us to operate or react based on previous conditioning, and let go of it. So if we do nothing else, then the most important thing is that we engage in some kind of spiritual practice that encourages greater conscious awareness of how we operate, of how we think and feel, and to let go of any conditioning, let go of any beliefs, and let go of any controlling tendencies that stop us from becoming the best versions of ourselves. And if we do this and take greater responsibility for who we are and how we operate, then we can get much closer to achieving that true freedom that we all say we want, but are we prepared to do the work to actually make that happen? Because if we really want freedom, we have to embrace responsibility. But if we do embrace that responsibility, we can empower ourselves far beyond anything that we can do if we just keep going about our old ways of doing things. So if we choose to use the astrology this week, we have an opportunity to develop greater reserves of compassion, greater understanding of our own thoughts and emotions, and greater understanding of our own power drives, so that we can then transform them so that we're operating from a position where we only do things or take action based on love. We don't react out of fear. So may this week bring you many blessings and many lessons, and may you get the most out of these opportunities to transform and renew our minds. Take care and be blessed.